Welcome to episode 121 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Myers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing screenwriter and director Michael Hirst. He wrote a contained sci-fi time travel thriller screenplay called Paradox. The movie was recently produced. He also directed. We talk through his early career and how he got his big break. And then we talk about specifically this new film and how he got it produced. So stay tuned for that. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 121. If you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address, and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks, along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide. How to write a professional logline inquiry letter, how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. It really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Again, just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide to sign up. A quick few words about what I'm working on. So once again, the main thing I'm working on now is pre-production for my crime action thriller screenplay, The Pinch. Production is scheduled to begin July 9th. That's a Saturday. We're going to start shooting that day. We're going to run for 3 weeks, 5 days per week. So we'll take a couple of days off. Right now, I'm thinking Monday and Tuesday off for those 3 weeks, but then we'll work Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for 3 weeks. So it's July 9th is till, I think July 28th is kind of what we're scheduled for now. I started to meet with a bunch of people last week, starting to get the crew together. I've got my DP in place, and I've got a few other slots filled as well. The next big position I'm trying to fill is the job of assistant director. Getting a good AD on a micro-budget film like this is crucial. I've got to find someone, hopefully with some experience. I do have a little bit of my budget set aside for the AD. So I just really need to find someone who's really, really experienced and good and wants to work on the project and really understands what it is that an AD does. I mean, the AD basically keeps you on schedule, and when things are as tight as they're going to be on this film shoot, I really need someone good. So I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks putting out feelers, trying to get an AD on board. I'm starting to look around for locations too. This has actually been, I would say, a little more challenging than I had initially thought. One of the issues is I'm shooting basically at it's basically an apartment and a house are the two main locations. The apartment only for a few days, but the house is like probably almost half the shoot, or maybe even more than that, will be at this one house. And I started to look around for some houses, but one thing that occurs to me is, I mean, I'm basically going to rent the house for 2 weeks, something like that, 8 days, 9 days, something like that. And it occurs to me that the kind of people that are going to rent me their house are people that are trying to rent their house or they're selling their house. And so they're not going to want to, because the part of the story is that the house is empty, and that will, it's written in the story, but it will also make shooting much easier. I don't have to worry about breaking people's stuff. If we're in an empty house, it's just easier to set up some pictures of my own, set up some stuff for production design, and then shoot that way, as opposed to, the idea in the story is that the person who owns the house has died, and it's kind of, the family is moving them out. So there might be a few boxes, a few pieces of furniture, but essentially the house is basically going to be empty. And that's a good thing. It's going to make production easier, but I think it's going to make finding the location a little bit more challenging because, as I said, the people who are renting their house or potentially selling their house, they're not going to want to commit to something this far ahead because they're going to be trying to rent it and sell it to someone, who is willing to rent it for, sign a lease and rent it for many, many months. So I'm probably going to just have to wait. I'm kind of looking at some alternatives. As I said, most of the shooting takes place. Probably half the shoot dates will be at this house, or probably even more than half the shoot dates. And a lot of those days are actually in a garage. I actually have a garage in my house, so I'm actually thinking I might be able to cheat it where we do the exteriors and a little bit of the interiors at this other house, and then it would just be like 2-3 days at this other house, and then shoot the actual garage scenes in my garage, or cheat it to something else. And that would, again, make it a lot more controlled. It would make it a lot easier to just kind of make it a little bit easier to run the production if it's at my house. And then again, I won't have to necessarily pay for that location, but it'll make it more controlled with the production design and, late hours, long hours, and that kind of thing. So anyways, that's kind of what I'm working on now. I will begin casting. I'm probably much like what I was talking about with the house and getting an apartment. I think I'm going to have a similar issue with casting. I think since there's not really a big budget to pay actors, if someone gets a paying gig, they're going to drop out. So I'm going to have to wait probably another month before I really dig into the casting. And that will still give me, 6 or 8 weeks before production. I mean, I've got plenty of time. So I've just got to stay on schedule. I'm trying to come up with sort of like some hard dates on when I need to be done these things. Hopefully by the end of May, maybe the first week in June, something like that. Then we're like 3-4 weeks out, because if we start July 9th, maybe a week midway through June. I like to have everything set up, all the casting, obviously all the locations. But that still gives me a little bit of time. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm really mainly just spending time meeting with potential crew members, talking to them, seeing who, is willing to work on this, and seeing if they're a good fit for kind of what I need as well. So that's kind of what I'm working on. Now let's get into the main segment. Today I'm interviewing writer-director Michael Hirst. Here is the interview. Welcome, Michael, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today.
Thanks for having me on, man.
So to start out, maybe you can give us just a quick overview of your background and kind of how you got into the entertainment industry. I noticed on IMDb your first writing and directing credit is a film called New Blood. So maybe you can kind of take us up, before that film, and then get in just briefly how that film actually got made.
Sure thing. It was quite interesting because my brother and I and a friend of ours called Robin Hill, we all grew up together in England, and we decided rather than go to college, we would make our first movie. We'd make a sort of totally independent, self-financed feature film. And so we did that, and it was called Project Assassin. And it took us 4 years to make it because we kept running out of money. Mm-hmm. We had to steal a camera to make it, and we had to do all these kind of crazy hijinks to get this little film made, because we didn't have any background in film or any money or anything. And we ended up spending about $20,000 on it. So it was super, super low budget. And then we took it to the Cannes Film Festival back in 97 or 98. And we had 200 VHS tapes made of the whole film on it. And we went to Cannes and we gave out the VHS tapes to anybody wearing a suit. That was our distribution system. We figured if you're wearing a suit in the Cannes sunshine, you must be an important person. And 198 people out of those 200 never got back to us. Just zero response, silence. It's classic Hollywood, no, just silence. And 2 people got back to us, and one of them was somebody who worked for Roland Emmerich. And in the end, they bought the film with us for a lot of money, and transferred it to 35mm film and released it in Germany, where they were, because it was basically a German company, Roland's company, basically a German company. And so that brought us out to Hollywood and got us a little office on the Fox lot, where Roland was a mentor mostly to my brother. And the other person who got back to us was a guy called Ash Shah, who was an English producer who'd sort of launched the career of Jean-Claude Van Damme and done a bunch of, movies like Double Dragon and stuff. And he really liked the film too. And basically what happened of Project Assassin was my brother got given about a $6 million budget to make a movie through Roland's people. And I did second unit on that. And I got about $2.6 million to make a movie, which was New Blood, from Ash Shah, who also liked Project Assassin. So Project Assassin sort of really began our careers. Nobody ever saw Project Assassin. It didn't do very well or anything. And it's only available on DVD, dubbed into German. But for a $20,000 movie, which we spent 4 years on, that was what, kickstarted our careers. And we were 21, 22 at the time.
Yeah, that's a great story. So when you say you went to Cannes, you didn't get in. You didn't submit your film and get accepted in the film festival.
No, God, no. We
bought a ticket and
we lived on the beach. We stayed in the tent on the beach.
Uh-huh.
We couldn't have been there official.
Yeah, that's a fantastic story, just getting out there and doing it. So let's dig into Paradox quickly. Maybe to start out, you can just give us a quick logline or pitch of the film.
Sure thing. It's about a group of sort of young genius scientists in this underground bunker, and they've invented the world's first time machine, and they decided to test it by sending one of their guys, a guy called Jim, forward in time 1 hour. So they send Jim forward 1 hour, and when he gets there, he finds blood everywhere, and they've all been murdered. So then he goes back an hour and says to the guys, "We've got trouble, we've got an hour to live at most." And then the rest of the film takes place in real time, and they try and figure out who the killer is and how they all ended up dead.
Mm-hmm. And where did this idea come from? What was sort of the genesis for it?
Oh, I mean, I can't really remember. It seems lightning strikes when they strike. I've always been a huge fan of time travel movies. Mm-hmm. To quote the Doctor Who, Russell Davies thing, I love timey-wimey stories. Terminator is one of my favourite movies, and there's lots of, little nods to Terminator in Paradox. So I think as you make movies and stuff, you have to sort of tick off the boxes and stuff, and I really wanted to do a time travel movie. And, the Terminator at one end of the spectrum, and there's Climber and things on the other end of the spectrum. And I just wanted to do one of them. So that was my overriding ambition was to do my time travel movie,
Yeah. So then what was sort of your writing process with this? Once you had sort of the seed of an idea, maybe we can just walk through kind of how you write and, everything from daily page count to how much you do outlining. What was sort of your first steps once you had this sort of seed of an idea?
Well, I always buy an exercise book, from Rite Aid, and I just start writing down ideas first, just notions for scenes, notions for character names, little snatches of dialogue perhaps. And it's very random, it's just I pretty much fill the exercise book, especially on Paradox, which is very sort of logic-based, and very, I wanted to obey all the rules and stuff. I mean, one of the ironies of Paradox is, I think I challenge people, if they do watch the movie, which I hope they do, that there is no paradox in it. I think I've made the first time travel movie where there literally is no paradox in it. It does, I think, as far as I'm concerned, I hope it actually makes perfect sense. So there was a lot of exercise book usage, a lot of notes being scrawled out and scribbled and crossed out and rewritten and stuff. And so when I saw the exercise book, then I did an outline, a step-by-step, a bullet point type thing. I don't write a formal document or anything. It's still kind of rough, but it lays out the film beat by beat by beat. I'm a big believer in Blake Snyder and his outline plan. I think it's a really good plan. It's the best plan I ever read. So I try and stick to that rough, Long Dark Night of the Soul and all those things. I try and put all that stuff in. And then once I've done the outline, I go to first draft and stuff. And Paradox was relatively simple script in the sense that once I had the outline, it was very strict. I even put in the log line, in the scene headings in final draft, I even put the time. So I wrote interior, main room, 11:02, PM. So I even wrote them in the actual line. So once I knew that the film was going to run in real time for the hour that he comes back in, then I was able to write the actual times in the scene headings. And that kept me very much on schedule, no pun intended. I couldn't really go anywhere. So once I was writing a really tight little film like that, it was really easy. And the first draft of Paradox was pretty close to the finished movie.
Yeah. So just break that down in terms of actual time. Did you spend like a month or two outlining, and then it sounds like you were in pretty good shape with the outline. So then you spend maybe 2 or 3 weeks writing the script. What were the actual time?
Yeah, that's not bad. It's like 2 or 3 months of the exercise book and the notes and stuff. There were some tangents I was going to take. There were some other tricks I was going to play and some other twists I was going to use. So there was some discarded subplots and stuff that took some time. So maybe it's 3 months on the exercise book and then it's 3 weeks writing the script. That sounds about right, yeah.
And how much time per day do you spend, like when you're in your outlining stage, are you working on other projects? Are there other things you're doing? Or do you spend like a solid 8 hours a day actually just coming up with the outline?
Honestly, no. I don't think you can spend 8 hours a day writing. I think you go mad. I mean, I had a job writing a script for a producer called Brad Cavoy. He gave me like a job, an writing assignment. So I had to do that as well. So I was basically splitting my time between Paradox and this writing assignment for Brad Cavoy. And I literally, when I'm screenwriting and when I'm actually sort of like sitting down at the computer to write rather than just scribbling notes out, I do 2 hours a day.
Okay.
2 hours a day between sort of midnight and 2 a.m. Because that's when my house is the quietest. And I think if I can do 5 to 10 pages in that 2 hours, that's my working day.
Mm-hmm. So then maybe take a step back. Where did this script Paradox, was it, were you already involved with the producers this whole time, or was it basically a spec script and then you had to go out and actually get producers after you had the script?
It was total spec. I had to go out and get producers after having written it. But I'd optioned something to Fox the year before, a very strange script that Fox ended up not making because it was way too weird. But Fox had assigned a producer to that script, and we were going to make it, called Jorge Saluegi, who used to be a top exec at Fox. He sort of, was the Fox exec in charge and other big films. And he was a great guy. Like Jorge is still a friend of mine now. He's a great guy. So when I had Paradox written, the first person I gave it to was Jorge. I just said, look, the thing at Fox didn't work out. But I've written this other thing, and I'd like to see if you could help me with this. And Jorge was the one who then sent it to the producers of Paradox. So literally, I've never had a film that was easier to get financed. I mean, I've usually spent 2 years of my life, on every film I've made so far as a director. I've spent 2 years going around getting no's from these people, and maybes and no's, and occasional yeses that turn into no's. And I've done all the usual, pushing the rock up the hill thing you have to do as a screenwriter. But this one was really easy. I gave it to Jorge. Jorge gave it to Nigel Thomas at his company, and then Nigel Thomas met me in London, in England. I had to go and see my family in England, so I met Nigel when I was over there having a sort of family vacation, and he just said, yeah, we'll do that. We'll make that. So literally the first producer I ever gave it to was the guy who ended up making Paradox.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about your... it's a very commercial idea. I mean, it's a sci-fi thriller. I know when I've been meeting with producers lately, they are constantly telling me, yeah, we'd love to have a very contained sci-fi thriller. How much did that impact, like you're writing the script? Did you kind of know when you had the idea that this was going to be, a fairly commercial script, or did you want to do a time travel movie? So I'm kind of just want to get a feel for sort of the balance of, artistic, what you want to see versus business, the practical business aspect.
Yeah, I hear you. I totally, honestly, I'll be honest with you, man. A big part of me thought this is practical, this is pragmatic, and I'm not Stanley Kubrick. I was thinking, I can get this made. When you make the kind of movies I make and the budgets I work at and stuff, you have to think, what's practical, and going off on massive flights of fancy and writing Lance of Arabia is pointless. So yes, there was a big part of me thinking, if I can keep this super contained, if I can just need the 4 or 5 sci-fi sets, and if I can, once I had the idea, I thought to myself, there were versions of the script where he went way further into the future and tried to figure it all, from the sort of position of being 40 years further in the future and stuff. And I discarded all those ideas for the same reasons you're talking about. Like, no one's going to finance that, no one's going to pay for a future city, nobody wants that many visual effects. So I'm going to have him go one hour forward in the future, and that's going to cost me nothing, it's some blood. And that's going to make the film super saleable. And that's the truth of it. That's what happened. And as you say, that's what producers are looking for. They want science fiction, they want action, they want intrigue, and they want murder scenes and sort of clever whodunit and stuff. And they don't want to go and travel around Europe and go to different exotic locations unless they're James Bond producers.
Yeah. And do you talk to producers? Is this just from your years of experience in the business, or are you constantly talking to producers and kind of trying to get a beat on what they are looking for?
No, honestly, not anymore. I mean, I'm at a point in my career now where I'm a little bit, I've done a bunch of stuff. Some of it good, some of it not so good. And I'm now much more of a sort of spec screenwriting position. I don't really want to be shaping things or compromising things or I'm not interested in finding out what producers want written and then writing it, hoping to direct it. I wouldn't do that anymore. I literally I like to come up with ideas that are kind of strange. I mean, commercial genre films but with a twist is what I'm looking to do now with my career. Like I wrote this thing called Retail that was turned into a disaster because After Dark was so unpleasant. But I tried to, that was about a cops episode in the future where in the future cops now hunt zombies and with commercial breaks and stuff in it. I try and write weird stuff that is nonetheless genre, so it's horror with zombies and machine guns, and this was time travel with murder and fight scenes, but nonetheless with a twist, and that's what I want to do from now on. So everything I try and do now is a genre film with a serious dose of oddness or some weird, format-based or narrative-based trick in it. And then I just write that on my own. I don't ask for anyone's opinion. I don't, solicit anyone's interest. I just write the thing on my own, make it as good as I can, and then I shop it around. And if I get it made, great. And if I don't, I'll write something else.
Yeah. And so how many scripts are you churning out in a year to try and push out and actually get made?
Spec-wise, in terms of, projects I'm actually trying to do this process with, maybe 2 or 3 a year.
Okay. And then what percentage would you say you're actually getting a hit on, like with Paradox, where it actually gets funded?
Let's say, in terms of the sort of specs I really commit to and really try and get made, I'm probably at sort of 25%. One out of every 4.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, because I think that's one thing I think writers, a lot of times they get too hung up on one idea. So I think it's good to hear from a working writer-director that, you're producing a lot of material that ultimately is not going to see the light of day, but that's part of the process.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, the truth of it is that Hollywood is a meritocracy. It's very fair. People don't really say this very often, but it is fair. And I've seen this in my career over the last sort of 15 years. The ones that I write with real adrenaline that I think are great, in my experience, always get made. They never get made well. Sometimes they get screwed up by other people and, and these things happen. But they always get made. And the ones that I write, they're like, oh yeah, that'll be okay. That might work. Yeah. They never get made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how can the cream rises. It's been quite fair.
Yeah. So how can people see Paradox? Do you know the release schedule?
Yeah, well, all I know is that it's going to be on Netflix. I mean, that's going to be the primary way of seeing it. It's going to be on Netflix on April 19th.
Okay, perfect. And I always like to just end up the interviews where I ask the guest to share, a Twitter handle, Facebook page, blog, anything you feel comfortable sharing in case people want to just follow along and kind of keep up with your career.
Honestly, I should have all this stuff. The only thing I do have is a Facebook. Yeah, I'd be happy to make friends with any screenwriters on Facebook. That'd be great.
Okay, perfect. So I'll track down your Facebook page and put a link to that in the show notes. Michael, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I just watched the movie and I really enjoyed it. So I wish you luck with it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, man.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
I just want to mention 2 things I'm doing at Selling Your Screenplay to help screenwriters find producers who are looking for material. First, I've created a monthly newsletter that will be sent directly to producers. Every member of SYS Select can submit 1 logline per newsletter. I went and emailed my large database of producers and asked them if they would like to receive this monthly newsletter of pitches. And so far, we have over 300 producers who have signed up to receive it. So this list is growing nicely. Every month, I'm continuously adding new producers to it. These producers are hungry for material and happy to read the scripts from new writers. Again, I'm when I approach these producers to join this email list, I tell them exactly what it is. It's going to be pitches from the SYS Select community. So these are 300 producers that really understand what it is I'm sending them, and they're expecting it, and they want to get this monthly newsletter. So I found it's a pretty active newsletter. The producers are very, very eager to meet writers and are very open to working with new writers. So if you want to pitch to this newsletter, this group of producers that are getting this newsletter, just sign up at sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. Again, it's all part of SYS Select, and you can sign up at sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. And secondly, I've partnered with one of the premier paid screenwriting leads services, so I can syndicate their leads to SYS Select members. There are lots of great paid leads coming in each week from our partner. Recently, I've been getting 10 to 12 high-quality leads per week. These are producers and production companies who are actively looking to buy material or are looking to hire a screenwriter for a specific project. If you sign up at SYS Select, you'll get these leads emailed directly to you several times per week. These leads run the gamut from producers and production companies looking for a specific type of spec script to producers and production companies looking to hire a screenwriter to write some material for them. They may have optioned a book or a magazine article and they need it turned into a script. They may have their own original ideas and they need to hire a writer to write it into a fully fleshed out script. There are producers looking for shorts, features, producers looking for TV and web series, pilots. It's a huge array of different types of projects. So if you're a writer, most likely you will find some matches here in a given month. You'll definitely find some leads that you can submit to, and you have material ready for them. These leads are exclusive to our partner, who's obviously generating the leads, and our SYS Select members. Again, to sign up, this is all part of SYS Select, and to sign up, go to sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. I recently also set up a success stories page for people who have been having success through the various SYS Select services. If you want to check that out, just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/success. So a quick few words about the podcast episode next week. I'm going to be interviewing writers Marilyn Anderson and Richard Rossner. They recently wrote an independent family film called How to Beat a Bully. There's a lot of great inside information in the interview about writing a family-friendly film. So anyone who's ever thought about writing one, do check out the episode next week. Family-friendly films are a really underserved market. There's still a good market for them. Producers are able to take those family-friendly movies, put the DVDs in places like Walmart, and there still is actually a market of people buying those DVDs. Everyone talks about the DVD market collapsing over the last 10 years, but there is still a pretty strong market for these family films. People will just scoop them up at the cash register. They'll see them in the aisles and they will grab these family-friendly movies. So there's still a big market. There's still a lot of producers looking for family-friendly movies. And, I include myself in this as a screenwriter. I've never written a family-friendly movie. It's something I keep thinking I really should get into. And that was one of the reasons I was so eager to interview Marilyn and Richard in this podcast and really dig into some of the specifics. So, even if you haven't thought about writing a family-friendly movie, I would really encourage you to potentially think about that. And, a great way to start thinking about it might be to listen to this podcast episode next week. So keep an eye out for that. To wrap things up, I just want to touch on something from today's interview with Michael. I think the story of him and his brother just going to the Cannes Film Festival and handing out VHS tapes of their movie is awesome. I love to hear stories like that. I've had so many people on the podcast who have done things that are similar to that. Just getting out there and doing stuff, no matter what level it is just so important. These small projects can end up leading to bigger and better things. But even if they don't, they're still experiences, and they still make you a better writer, a better director, a better producer. They still just make you better, and they still build your resume. But as I said, just exactly like what Michael was talking about, sometimes these things can lead to bigger and better things. And sometimes those steps, we always hear about sort of the Clerks, Brothers McMullen, Blair Witch. We hear about these huge, big independent films that really kick off the careers of those people. And that does sometimes happen, but more likely it's people like Michael Hirst. And most likely you haven't heard of him before this interview. You might have heard of some of his movies. You might have seen some of his movies, but that's a much, much more sort of realistic thing. And go look him up on IMDb. He's got lots of credits now. He's writing, he's directing his own stuff, and he's, you know, he has a career. And I think those are the stories that are not necessarily talked about as often, but those things can actually happen. Like, those are realistic models to follow. The Kevin Smiths and you know, the Clerks sort of phenomenon, or even something like the Blair Witch or Paranormal Activity more recently, those things can happen, and I hope they do, and that's great. But somewhere along the line, there's a little bit of luck really mixed into those equations, and they're hard to reproduce. They're hard to look at those sort of extreme examples as templates. But I think Michael and what he's done is a real good example. I get so many emails from people who ask about getting an agent, or they ask about how do I submit to this company or this director. And, you know, sort of the tone of those emails, what you're missing if you're asking those questions is that you're basically waiting for permission. You're waiting for someone to give you permission to write a script or to make a movie. And, you know, even if you can get yourself submitted to those agencies, which isn't really that difficult, you're still hoping that they read it and someone else has to read it and say, yeah, I like this, and I'm going to give you representation. Or as a director or a producer, if they read your script, they say, yeah, I'm going to invest, I'm going to pay you for this. You're waiting for permission. You're waiting for someone else to basically just pull you up to the next level of your screenwriting career. And while, again, that can happen, I hope it does, and it certainly has happened for a lot of people, I think it's so important to work this other angle where you don't wait for permission. You go out and you make your own projects, and you work on your own stuff, and you don't wait for permission from anybody. You just make things happen. And I really hope people who listen to this podcast are getting inspired to do that stuff. I mean, Michael's story is a great story to listen to. And if you do go out and just start making stuff, whether it be a short or a feature film or a web series or whatever, please do let me know. It might be a good fit for the podcast. If you've had some success, you've gotten into some film festivals, I'd love to hear from you. I love hearing these stories. They're inspiring to me. I hope that they're inspiring to my audience. So if you're the kind of person that's just out there making things happen for yourself, you've got a bunch of shorts out there, maybe you've got a feature film that's getting ready to come out, just give me a call or drop me an email, info@sellingyourscreenplay.com. Just drop me a line and let me know what's happening. I love to hear those stories, and potentially maybe we could get you on the podcast to share your experiences with everyone else. Anyway, thank you for listening. That's our show today. We'll talk to you next week.